The movie starts with something crazy. People are falling from the sky. One of them is a man named Dan. They land in a big pool of water. Dan comes up holding a gun, ready to fight. Then, the story goes back 28 years. Dan is at home celebrating his daughter's birthday. He brought her lots of presents. While they're having a good time, Dan's wife gives him a letter. It's from Dan's dad, and it's meant for their daughter. But Dan doesn't want anything to do with his father. He tells his wife to ignore the letter. He doesn't want his dad in their lives. Dan used to study science, but now he teaches high school. He doesn't really like the job. He wants to get a better one working in a lab. That night, he watches a football game with his daughter to cheer up. But then something strange happens. A bright light flashes in the middle of the field. People wearing military clothes appear. They say they are from the future. They tell everyone that there is a big war happening many years from now. The world is in danger, and they need help from people today to fight it. Governments all over the world start sending people to the future to help fight. But after a year, most don't come back. The ones who do come back are very scared and sad. People start getting nervous and don't want to go anymore. One day at school, Dan is suddenly called to a science building. There, people tell him he's been picked to go to the future war. They put a special device on his arm, so he can't run away. Then they tell him something shocking. He only has 7 years left to live. They want him to use that time to help save the world. Dan goes home and tells his wife. She's a therapist who helps people who came back from the war. She knows how scary it is and begs him not to go. Dan doesn't want to leave either, especially not his daughter. But the device tracks him, and he can't escape it. Then his wife has an idea. She says maybe Dan's father, who Dan hasn't talked to in years, can help remove the device. Dan doesn't like the idea. He's still angry at his dad for leaving when he was a kid, but he has no other choice, so he goes to see him. Dan's dad used to be a soldier and now flies planes. He offers to help, but Dan gets angry and brings up the past. They argue, and Dan leaves without any help. Back home, Dan tells his wife there's no way out. He has to go. She's very sad but understands. Before leaving, Dan talks to his daughter. He tries to make her feel better. She already knows what's going on and tells him to be brave. Dan goes to the science center and meets others who are also chosen. Some are scared, some are curious. One man becomes Dan's friend. He notices something weird. Everyone picked is around the same age. Someone asks why they can't just go back in time to stop the war from starting, but the scientists say the time machine only works between now and the future. Then they learn who the enemy is. It's not people, it's aliens. Strange, scary, and very strong aliens. The group gets a short training, and then they're sent to fight. Some are excited to help. Others are very scared. One night, while Dan and his friend are talking, an alarm goes off. A science lab in the future is being attacked. That lab is doing important work to stop the aliens. Dan's group has to go right away. But something goes wrong when they time travel. Instead of landing safely, they fall from the sky. Many people die. Dan and a few others survive by landing in water. Now the beginning of the movie makes sense. A woman commander finds them and gives Dan a mission. Go save the scientists in a nearby lab. But when they get there, it's too late. The scientists are already dead. The aliens got them. They call the commander, who tells them to grab the research data from the lab. Just as Dan is getting the info, the aliens attack. Dan's team runs away and blows up the lab, so the aliens can't use it. The explosion kills many aliens. But only a few people from Dan's team survive. Dan wakes up in a hospital tent. He's hurt but alive. His friend made it too. They meet another soldier named Dorian. He's been in the war 3 times already. Dan asks why. Dorian says he's very sick and doesn't have much time left. He wants to choose how he dies, fighting. Dan is touched by how brave he is. Later, the woman commander thanks Dan for being brave and for saving the important data from the lab. Dan looks at the woman in charge and feels like he knows her. He asks her name, and she tells him something shocking. She's his daughter, all grown up. She's from the future and now a top leader in the army. Dan is surprised but proud. He's happy to see her again, but she doesn't act like a daughter. She tells him he's there as a soldier, not as her dad. Dan starts to understand how his own father must have felt when he pushed him away. She wants Dan to focus on the mission. Their next job is really dangerous. They need to catch a special female alien, the one that lays all the eggs. If they can study it, they might find a way to stop the aliens for good. Dan and his daughter ride in a helicopter to the place where the alien is hiding. She tells him how fast the aliens are growing in numbers. If they don't stop them soon, all of humanity will be gone. When they get there, Dan's daughter tells him to stay in a helicopter while her team captures the alien. But it's not easy. The female alien is strong, and other aliens start attacking too. Dan can't just watch. He jumps in to help. Together, they manage to trap the female alien and lift it into the air using another helicopter. But their ride is destroyed, so Dan and his daughter escape in a truck, barely getting away from the chasing aliens. Later, when things are quiet, Dan asks her why she seems so cold and upset. She tells him that after he came back from the war in the future, he changed. He became distant and eventually left the family. Dan is heartbroken to hear this, but he understands how much it hurt her. Still, there's no time to talk about feelings. The mission isn't over yet. Back at a safe lab, the female alien is locked up. Dan's daughter starts working on a special poison from the alien's blood. This poison could kill all the aliens, but there's a problem. They don't have enough of it. She tells Dan he needs to go back to the present and make more of the poison. She'll stay behind and keep working. Dan doesn't want to leave her. It's dangerous. But she believes in him. Just like when she was little. She says, "You can do it." That gives Dan the strength he needs. But suddenly, the female alien wakes up and screams. That scream calls more aliens, and they attack. In the chaos, Dan's daughter gets hurt. As aliens drag her away, she tells Dan she's sorry and that she always loved him. Dan tries to save her, but the time jump pulls him back to the present. Back in the present, Dan is heartbroken. He doesn't know if his daughter from the future is alive, but he knows what he has to do. He runs to Lieutenant Hart and asks her to help make more of the poison. But she gives him bad news. The time machine is broken. They can't go back. Dan goes home and sees his young daughter. Looking at her, he remembers the brave woman she'll grow up to be. He tells his wife their daughter is a hero. She figured out how to beat the aliens. Dan then meets up with Dorian, who also made it back. Dorian has a piece of an alien claw. Scientists study it and find something strange, volcanic ash on it. But that's not enough to know where the aliens came from. Dan remembers one of the students who loves volcanoes. He visits the kid, who tells him something important. The aliens must have been stuck under the ice after a volcano erupted. Years later, the ice started melting, and that's when the aliens got free. Now Dan has a clue. He tells the military, but they say no, it's too risky. Dan feels hopeless. But then he remembers something. His dad is a pilot. Maybe he can help. Dan goes to his father and tells him the truth. His granddaughter is a hero in the future, but she's in trouble. If they destroy the aliens now, they can stop the war before it starts. His dad agrees to help. Lieutenant Hart joins him too, bringing the new poison. With a small team, they fly to the icy place. They blow open the ice and find an alien spaceship buried underneath. The aliens are still asleep, but not for long. The team starts injecting the poison. It works on some aliens, but the noise wakes the others. They start attacking. Dan's friend stays behind to set off a bomb. He sacrifices himself to stop the aliens. Dan runs and finds a huge female alien still alive. She's coming for them. Dan's father helps by distracting the alien, even though it's very dangerous. Dan uses the last bit of poison his daughter made and throws it into the alien's mouth. It works. The alien burns from the inside and dies. After everything is over, Dan and his dad fly home. They've both changed. Dan now understands how much his dad cared, and Dan promises he won't make the same mistakes again. Now the family is together again. And because Dan and his team stopped the aliens before they could wake up, the future is safe.